7-year-old Tommy stood at the edge of the sidewalk, tears streaming down his face as he watched the bikers work on their motorcycles. His small voice broke through the rumble of engines. "Can you be my new family?" What happened next would transform an entire city and prove that sometimes the fiercest warriors have the gentlest hearts. If you believe that love knows no boundaries and that family is about choice, not blood, please hit that like button and share your thoughts below. Your support helps us share these powerful stories of human kindness. The morning sun cast long shadows across Riverside Avenue in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, as Tommy Morrison pressed his face against the window of his aunt's house. His breath fogged the glass as he watched the motorcycles lined up outside Rex's custom cycles, their chrome gleaming like promises he didn't understand. At 7 years old, with almond-shaped eyes that held more sadness than any child should carry, Tommy had learned that some people looked at him and saw only what made him different. "Get away from there!" Aunt Helen snapped from behind, making him jump. "How many times do I have to tell you? Stop staring at those thugs!" Tommy's lower lip trembled, but he didn't cry. Mom had always said he was brave, her special warrior. But Mom wasn't here anymore. She'd been gone for 3 weeks, taken by something the doctors called cancer, leaving Tommy in a house where love had died long before she did. "Sorry," he mumbled, the word thick in his mouth. Speaking was harder when he was scared, and lately he was always scared. Helen huffed, returning to her phone call. "Yes, I'm still here. No, I haven't found a place for him yet. You'd think with his condition there'd be programs or something. It's not like I asked for this." Tommy understood more than adults thought. He knew condition meant Down syndrome. He knew place for him meant somewhere that wasn't here. He knew he wasn't wanted. Outside, Rex Bear Sullivan straightened from the Harley he'd been working on, his massive frame casting a shadow across the oil-stained concrete. At 58, with silver streaking his beard and tattoos telling stories of 3 tours in Vietnam, Bear commanded respect from everyone who knew him. The Rolling Thunder MC wasn't just a club. It was a brotherhood of veterans who'd seen too much and found peace in the rumble of engines and the bond of shared understanding. "Pass me that wrench, Tiny," Bear called to his sergeant-at-arms, whose nickname was deeply ironic given his 6'5" frame. "Which one?" Tiny asked, gesturing at the toolbox. Bear paused, catching movement in his peripheral vision. That kid was watching again. Same kid who'd been at the window every morning for the past 2 weeks. Small, maybe 6 or 7, with the distinctive features of Down syndrome and the saddest eyes Bear had ever seen on a child. "Boss?" Tiny prompted. "The 916, Bear said absently, still watching the boy. "Hey, Tank, you know whose kid that is?" Marcus Tank Washington looked up from the transmission he was rebuilding. "Helen Morrison's nephew, I think. His mum died a few weeks back. Breast cancer, from what I heard at the grocery store." Bear frowned. He knew Helen Morrison, bitter woman who complained about everything from the noise of their bikes to the existence of their shop. Not exactly the nurturing type. "Kids there every morning," observed Diego Wheels Rodriguez, their youngest member at 35. "Just watches. Never seen him outside, though." The morning routine continued, engines revving, tools clanking, brothers bantering. But Bear kept glancing at the window, at the small face that appeared and disappeared like a ghost haunting a life he wasn't allowed to live. Around 11, Helen's voice carried across the street. "I don't care if you're hungry. You had breakfast. Now go to your room and stop bothering me. I have things to do." The bikers exchanged glances. Bear's jaw tightened. He'd seen enough suffering in his life to recognize it in all its forms. "Maybe we should—" Wheels started. "No," Bear cut him off. "Not our business. Can't just interfere with how people raise their kids." But even as he said it, something twisted in his gut. He'd been saying that same thing for 2 years now, ever since his daughter had moved across the country and cut off contact, taking his grandchildren with her. Not his business, not his place. The words tasted more bitter each time. The shop closed at 6, but several members lingered, working on personal bikes or just enjoying the brotherhood. Bear was adjusting his carburetor when he heard it, a small voice, barely audible over the ambient noise. "Excuse me?" Every head turned. There, standing at the edge of their property, was the boy. He wore pajamas despite the evening hour, no shoes, and his face was streaked with tears. He swayed slightly, clearly exhausted and probably hungry. Bear slowly stood, not wanting to frighten him. "Hey there, buddy. You okay?" The boy took a shaky step forward. His words came out in a rush, like he'd been practicing them. "Can you be my new family?" Silence. Absolute silence from 8 of the toughest men in Cedar Rapids. I promise I'll be good," Tommy continued, his voice breaking. "I won't eat much. I can learn about motorcycles, please." Bear felt something crack inside his chest. This child, this brave, desperate child, had crossed the street barefoot to ask strangers to love him because the people who should were failing him completely. "What's your name, son?" Bear asked gently, moving closer, but staying at a non-threatening distance. Tommy Morrison." The boy wiped his nose with his sleeve. "My mom went to heaven. Aunt Helen says I'm too much trouble and nobody wants a retard." He struggled with the word he'd heard too often. "Hey," Tank interrupted, his deep voice surprisingly soft. "None of that. You're not any of those mean words. You're Tommy, and you're brave as hell for coming over here." Tommy's eyes widened. "You said a bad word." Despite the gravity of the moment, several bikers chuckled. Bear knelt down to Tommy's level. "He did, didn't he? Don't tell anyone. Now, Tommy, are you hungry?" The boy nodded so vigorously he almost lost his balance. "Aunt Helen forgot lunch and dinner. She's busy." Bear's hands clenched. Behind him, he heard Tiny mutter something that would have earned him $1 in the swear jar if they had one. "Tell you what," Bear said. "How about we get you some food, and then we'll figure out this family thing. Deal?" "Deal." Tommy's face lit up for the first time. "Can I see the motorcycles?" "Sure can. But first," Bear looked across the street at the Morrison house. "We need to tell your aunt where you are." Tommy's face fell. "She won't care. She said so on the phone." The confrontation with Helen Morrison went exactly as Bear expected. She answered the door with her phone, pressed to her ear, saw Tommy, and rolled her eyes. "Oh, there you are. Yes, I'm still here," she said into the phone. The kid wandered off. "No, he's fine. Some bikers found him." "Ma'am," Bear said, his tone carefully controlled. "Tommy came to our shop. He's hungry." Helen covered the phone's mouthpiece. "He's always hungry. Look, I'm in the middle of something. Can you just—" She waved her hand vaguely. "I don't know. Keep him for a bit? I need to finish this call." "He doesn't have shoes on," Wheels pointed out from behind Bear. "He's fine," Helen snapped. "He doesn't like shoes. Sensory thing or whatever. Are we done here?" Bear studied her for a long moment. 20 years of military service had taught him to read people, and everything about Helen Morrison screamed neglect. When did he eat last? Oh my God, what is this? An interrogation? He had toast this morning. He's not starving. He's just manipulative. They're like that, you know. Now, if you'll excuse me. She started to close the door. Bear's hand stopped it. They? Kids like him. The social worker warned me they could be crafty, playing for sympathy. You can't let them. "He's 7 years old," Tank growled from beside Bear, "and his mother just died." Helen's face hardened. A mother who didn't bother to make proper arrangements, just assumed family would step up. Well, I stepped up, didn't I? I took him in, but I'm not equipped for this. I work from home. I need quiet. He's always making noise, always needing something. She looked past them to where Tommy stood with Tiny, the giant biker letting the boy trace the patches on his vest. "I've called 5 group homes. There's a waiting list." "Group homes?" Bear's voice dropped dangerously low. "Specialized facilities. For kids like him, where he'll get proper care." Helen lifted her chin defiantly. "It's what's best for everyone." Bear felt rage building, the kind he hadn't experienced since combat. But this wasn't the place for it. Not with Tommy watching. "We'll bring him back in an hour." "Whatever," Helen said, already closing the door. "Just make sure he doesn't get hurt. I can't deal with emergency rooms on top of everything else." The walk back to the shop was quiet. Tommy held Bear's hand. his small fingers trusting and warm. The boy looked up at the bikes with wonder, temporarily forgetting his troubles. "Which one's yours?" he asked Bear. "The black one with the silver pipes. Her name's Redemption." "Why Redemption?" Bear glanced down at the boy. "Because sometimes we all need a second chance to get things right." Inside the shop's break room, the Rolling Thunder MC held an emergency meeting while Tommy devoured 2 peanut butter sandwiches and a bag of chips. Wheels had found some old sneakers in the lost and found that almost fit. "We can't send him back there," Tiny stated flatly. "You heard her. She's gonna dump him in a home first chance she gets." "Not our call," Bear said, though his heart wasn't in it. "She's his legal guardian." "Bullshit," Tank countered. "That ain't a guardian. That's a warden. Kids being neglected." "He asked us to be his family," Wheels added quietly. "When's the last time any of us got asked something that important?" Bear rubbed his face. They were right, all of them. But the law was the law, and 8 bikers couldn't just adopt a child because he asked nicely. "Uncle Bear," a small voice interrupted. Everyone turned. Tommy stood in the doorway, sandwich crumbs on his face. "I'm sorry. I called you uncle. I won't do it again." "Why'd you call me that, buddy?" Bear asked gently. "'Cause Mum said uncles are men who love you and keep you safe, and you gave me food, and you have kind eyes." Tommy's face scrunched up. "But Aunt Helen says I assume too much. I'm sorry." Bear's throat tightened. Around the table, hardened veterans blinked suspiciously bright eyes. "You can call me Uncle Bear if you want," Bear managed. "I'd be honored." "Really?" Tommy's face lit up. "Can I call all of you Uncle?" "Hell yes," Tiny said, then caught himself. "I mean, heck yes." Tommy giggled, the first truly joyful sound any of them had heard from him. "Uncle Tiny, that's funny 'cause you're really big." The moment was perfect. Then reality crashed back as Bear's phone buzzed. Helen, texting, "Is he coming back or what? I have plans tonight." "Tommy," Bear said carefully, "we need to take you home now." The boy's face crumpled. "I knew it. Nobody wants me. It's okay. I understand." "No," Tank said firmly. "That's not it at all. We want you, but there are rules, laws. We can't just—" "Keep me?" Tommy finished, tears rolling down his cheeks. "I know. I'm too much work. That's what everyone says." Bear knelt beside him. "Listen to me, Tommy Morrison. You are not too much work. You're a gift. And we're going to figure this out, I promise." "Promises are important," Tommy said solemnly. "Mom said never make them unless you mean them. Your mom was a smart lady, and I mean it. We're going to figure this out. All of us," Wheels added. "The whole club." "Rolling Thunder don't abandon family," Tiny confirmed. The next morning, Bear was at the shop early, but not to work on bikes. He had Helen Morrison's number and a plan. The conversation was brief and transactional. "I want to help with Tommy," he said simply. "Maybe take him some days. Give you a break." "Why?" Suspicion dripped from her voice. "What's in it for you? Does it matter?" "You need help, we're offering." A pause. "You can't be thinking of. I mean, you're not equipped to handle a special needs child." "Neither are you, apparently." "I'm doing my best," Helen snapped. "You have no idea what this has been like. My sister dumps this on me and dies, leaving me to figure everything out. His disability checks barely cover food. I had to take time off work. My boyfriend won't even come over anymore." Bear bit back several responses. "So let us help. Weekends, after school, whatever you need. Why do you care?" Bear thought of his own grandchildren, somewhere in California, growing up without him, of Tommy's trusting hand in his, of second chances and redemption, because everyone deserves to be wanted. Helen agreed, probably already planning her free weekends. Within an hour, Tommy was back at the shop, wearing actual clothes and shoes, a backpack with a few toys clutched to his chest. "She said I can visit," he announced to everyone. "Every day after school and weekends." "That's great, buddy," Bear said, though inside he seethed. Helen had practically shoved the boy out the door, muttering about errands and peace and quiet. What followed was the most remarkable transformation Bear had witnessed outside a battlefield. The Rolling Thunder MC, feared by some and respected by all, became an extended family for a 7-year-old boy with Down syndrome. Tank, who'd never had kids, taught Tommy to identify tools. The boy's face scrunched in concentration as he repeated, "Wrench, socket, screwdriver." "Perfect," Tank praised. "You're a natural mechanic." The wheels set up a small basketball hoop on the side of the building. Tommy's coordination wasn't great, but his enthusiasm was infectious. "I made it! Uncle Wheels, did you see? I made it!" "Sure did, champ. You're gonna be a star." Tiny, the giant with a heart to match, became Tommy's favorite storyteller. During lunch breaks, Tommy would curl up against him while Tiny spun tales of brave knights and loyal dragons, carefully edited versions of his own military service. "And then what happened?" Tommy would ask breathlessly. Then the knight realized that the dragon wasn't scary at all. He was just lonely and needed a friend. "Like me," Tommy said quietly. "I was lonely too. Not anymore, little brother, not anymore." But it was with Bear that Tommy formed the deepest bond. The boy shadowed him everywhere, mimicking his movements, absorbing his quiet strength. When Bear worked on bikes, Tommy sat beside him with a toy motorcycle, pretending to fix it too. "What's wrong with your bike today, buddy?" Bear would ask. "It's sad," Tommy would reply seriously. "Its family went away, but I'm fixing it, making it happy again." The metaphors weren't lost on anyone. 3 weeks into their arrangement, Bear noticed bruises on Tommy's arms, finger marks, adult-sized. "Tommy, what happened here?" he asked carefully. "I spilled juice," Tommy said, not meeting his eyes. "Aunt Helen got mad. It was my fault." Bear documented everything with his phone camera. Tank, who worked part-time as a security guard, had connections with social services. Wheel's sister was a family lawyer. Quietly, they began building a case. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon. Tommy arrived at the shop, limping, trying to hide it. His lunch bag contained a single piece of bread and a note from Helen. He had a big breakfast. Don't give him too much. "When was your big breakfast, buddy?" Bear asked gently. "Yesterday," Tommy admitted. "But it's okay. I'm not very hungry." His stomach growled loudly, betraying the lie. That night, the Rolling Thunder MC held a vote. Unanimous. They were going to save Tommy Morrison, legally and permanently. "I'll take guardianship," Bear said. "I've got the most stable situation. House is paid off, steady income from the shop and my pension. We'll all help," Tank added. "Set up a schedule. He'll have 8 uncles instead of 1. "Helen won't fight it," Wheels predicted. "She wants him gone. We're offering her an out where she doesn't look like the bad guy." "And if she does fight?" Tiny asked. Bear's expression was stone. "Then she'll learn what it means to go to war with Rolling Thunder." The next morning, Bear arrived at the shop to find Tommy already there, sitting on the steps. His lip was split, and he clutched a garbage bag of belongings. "She said I can't come back," Tommy whispered. "She said you probably don't want me either, but I had nowhere else to go." Bear lifted the boy into his arms, feeling the trembling little body relax against him. "You're home now, son. You're home." "Forever?" Tommy asked, hope and fear warring in his voice. "Forever and then some," Bear promised. Rolling Thunder protects its own. As if summoned, bikes began arriving, Tank, Tiny, Wheels and others. Word had spread. Tommy Morrison needed his family, and family always showed up. "Uncle Tank!" Tommy called out, still in Bear's arms. "Uncle Tiny! You're all here!" "Where else would we be, little brother?" Tiny replied. "We've got you." Helen Morrison signed the guardianship papers within a week, barely hiding her relief. Social services, presented with Bear's stable home, the club's support system, and evidence of neglect, fast-tracked the process. The day it became official, the Rolling Thunder MC threw the biggest party Cedar Rapids had seen. Tommy, wearing a tiny leather vest with Prospect patched on it, beamed as his new family celebrated around him. "Uncle Bear!" Tommy tugged on Bear's sleeve that night as bedtime approached in his new home. "Is this real? You're really my dad now." Bear knelt beside the race car bed they'd assembled together. "It's real, son. I'm your dad, and those crazy bikers are your uncles, and you're never going to be alone again. And Mom would be happy," Tommy said sleepily. "She always said angels would watch over me. She just didn't say they'd ride motorcycles." Bear tucked him in, his heart full for the first time in years. Outside, he could hear bikes idling, his brothers making sure their newest member was safe on his first night in his real home. Sometimes family finds you in the most unexpected ways, and sometimes a little boy with Down syndrome and a brave heart teaches hardened warriors that love isn't about blood. It's about showing up, standing up, and never letting go. The custody hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Bear stood in front of his bathroom mirror, struggling with a tie he hadn't worn since his retirement ceremony. His hands, steady enough to rebuild an engine blindfolded, trembled slightly. "You need help with that, Dad?" Tommy appeared in the doorway, already dressed in his best clothes, khakis and a button-down shirt that Wheel's wife had bought him. Dad. 3 weeks of hearing it, and Bear's heart still skipped every time. "I got it, buddy. You ready for today?" Tommy nodded solemnly. "Will the judge let me stay with you?" "That's the plan. The whole club's coming to support us. Even Uncle Tiny." "Especially Uncle Tiny. He practiced wearing his suit all weekend." That earned a giggle. The image of Tiny in formal wear was admittedly comical. The courthouse parking lot looked like a motorcycle dealership. 20 members of Rolling Thunder had shown up, all in their cleanest clothes, some clearly borrowed or newly purchased. Tank had even trimmed his beard. "Tommy!" Wheels called out. "Looking sharp, little man." Inside the courtroom, Helen Morrison sat with her lawyer, looking irritated at having to be there. She'd already signed the papers. This was just a formality. But the judge, Honourable Patricia Hawkins, was known for being thorough when children were involved. "Mr. Sullivan," Judge Hawkins began, reviewing the file, "you're 58, single, and run a motorcycle repair shop. Why do you want guardianship of Tommy?" Bear stood, Tommy's hand in his. "Your Honour, Tommy came to us asking for a family. He'd been neglected, underfed, and emotionally abandoned. I couldn't turn away from that." "And your motorcycle club is involved?" "Yes, ma'am. Rolling Thunder has embraced Tommy completely. He has 8 uncles who've created a support schedule. He's never alone, never without someone who cares." The judge turned to Helen. "Ms. Morrison, any objections?" Helen barely looked up. "No, I'm not equipped for a special needs child. This is best for everyone." Judge Hawkins' expression hardened slightly at Helen's dismissive tone. "I see. Tommy, can you come here for a moment?" Tommy looked at Bear, who nodded encouragingly. The boy approached the bench. "Hi, Tommy. I'm Judge Hawkins. Can you tell me about living with Mr. Sullivan?" Tommy's face lit up. "Bear's my dad now. He makes me breakfast every day, pancakes on Saturdays, and he's teaching me about motorcycles, and I have my own room with a race car bed. And all my uncles come visit. Uncle Tank is teaching me math, and Uncle Wheels plays basketball with me, and Uncle Tiny tells the best stories." "That sounds wonderful. Do you want to stay with Mr. Sullivan?" "Forever and ever," Tommy said emphatically. "He keeps promises, and he doesn't get mad when I spill things. And he says I'm perfect just how I am." The judge smiled. "Thank you, Tommy. You can go back to your dad now." As Tommy returned to Bear, Judge Hawkins addressed the court. "I've reviewed the home study, the character references, and the support structure. Mr. Sullivan, your age was initially a concern, but the involvement of the Rolling Thunder MC actually strengthens your case. Tommy will have multiple father figures, consistent care, and, most importantly, he'll have love." She banged her gavel. "Guardianship is granted. Congratulations, Mr. Sullivan. And Tommy." The courtroom erupted in cheers from 20 bikers. Tommy launched himself into Bear's arms, and suddenly everyone was hugging. Even the bailiff was smiling. Outside, Tank popped champagne, sparkling cider for Tommy, and Tiny lifted the boy onto his shoulders. "We did it," Tommy shouted. "I have a family, I have a dad and lots of uncles." "Best investment this club ever made," Wheels said, wiping his eyes. "Who knew one little boy could change everything?" Word of Tommy's story spread through Cedar Rapids like wildfire. A little boy with Down syndrome, rejected by blood relatives but embraced by a motorcycle club, had captured hearts across the community. The first sign of the city's response came from Madison Elementary School. Principal Janet Coleman called Bear personally. "Mr. Sullivan, I wanted to let you know that Tommy's teacher has noticed remarkable improvements. He's more engaged, more confident. And yesterday, he gave a show-and-tell presentation about motorcycle engines that had the entire class mesmerized. He's been studying hard," Bear said proudly. "Tank's been teaching him. Well, it's working. Also, several parents have reached out. They'd like to help. One mother is a speech therapist and offered free sessions. Another family wants to invite Tommy to their son's birthday party. Apparently, Tommy's becoming quite popular." The birthday party was the first of many invitations. Tommy, who'd been isolated and lonely, suddenly had friends. And wherever Tommy went, at least one Rolling Thunder uncle was there, often teaching other kids about motorcycles and turning every gathering into an impromptu lesson in acceptance and kindness. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Tommy's new pediatrician, pulled Bear aside after a checkup. In 3 months, he's gained healthy weight, his speech has improved dramatically, and his social skills are blossoming. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up." "It's not just me," Bear explained. "It's the whole club. He's never without someone who cares about him." "That's what I wanted to discuss. I run a support group for parents of children with Down syndrome. Would you and Tommy consider joining? Your story could inspire others." That Tuesday, Bear walked into a community center conference room filled with parents. Tommy immediately gravitated toward the other children, and Bear found himself surrounded by eager listeners. "How did a motorcycle club become such advocates?" one mother asked. Bear thought about it. "We've all seen too much judgment in our lives. Veterans, bikers. People see the surface and make assumptions. Maybe that helped us see past Tommy's diagnosis to the incredible kid underneath." "But the time commitment," a father said. "How do you manage?" That's the beauty of our system," Bear explained. "I'm the legal guardian, but Tommy has 8 uncles who've created a schedule. Monday is Tank's math night. Wednesday, Wheels does sports. Friday is Tiny's story time. Weekends, we all gather at the shop. He's teaching us as much as we're teaching him." The impact rippled outward. The local news picked up the story. Bikers with hearts of gold. How Rolling Thunder MC became one boy's family. Donations poured in, not that they'd asked. A race car bed here, adaptive learning tools there, therapy equipment from anonymous donors. But the biggest change came from within the club itself. "Boss," Diesel, a newer member, approached Bear one evening. "My sister works with Child Protective Services. There are other kids in situations like Tommy was. Maybe we could." "Could what?" Bear asked, though he suspected where this was going. "Help more kids, not necessarily adoption, but mentorship. Showing up for kids who need positive male role models." Bear looked across the shop where Tommy was helping Tank with an oil change, chattering non-stop about his day at school. The boy who'd barely spoken 3 months ago was now a fountain of words and laughter. "Bring me a proposal," Bear said. "Let's see what we can do." 1 year later, the Rolling Thunder MC's annual charity ride had a new purpose. Instead of just raising money for veterans' causes, they now included the Tommy Fund, supporting families with special needs children. The morning of the ride, Tommy stood in the shop wearing his custom vest, Rolling Thunder's youngest member, proudly displayed on the back. He was now 8, taller, stronger, and radiating confidence. "Dad, can I give the speech?" he asked Bear. "You sure you're ready for that, buddy?" "I practiced with Uncle Tiny all week." The town square was packed. 300 motorcycles gleamed in the morning sun, but all eyes were on the small stage where Tommy climbed the steps, Bear close behind for support. "Hi, everyone!" Tommy's voice carried clear and strong through the microphone. "I'm Tommy Sullivan!" The crowd erupted in cheers. Tommy beamed, waiting for quiet. "1 year ago, I didn't have a family. My mom went to heaven, and I was really sad and scared, but then I met my dad and the Rolling Thunder uncles. They showed me that family isn't just about being born into it. It's about choosing to love someone. Bear's throat tightened. Around him, tough bikers dabbed at their eyes. Now I help other kids too, Tommy continued. We have a club at school called Tommy's Friends, where kids who feel different can come and know they're perfect, just how they are. Because that's what my uncles taught me. Everyone is perfect in their own way. More cheers. Tommy was in his element now. Today's ride is to help more kids like me. Kids who need families to choose them. Kids who need to know they matter. Because everyone matters. He paused, looking at Bear. My dad says that motorcycles are about freedom, but I think they're about family. The sound of the engines is like a heartbeat, and when we ride together, we're showing everyone that love is louder than fear. Besides, the standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. Tommy took exaggerated bows, while Bear stood behind him, pride radiating from every pore. The ride itself was magical. Tommy rode with Bear, his special safety seat custom-built by the club. 300 bikes roared through Cedar Rapids, led by a little boy who'd transformed an entire community's understanding of what family meant. They raised $40,000 that day, but more importantly, they raised awareness. 5 families with special needs children joined their support group. 3 other motorcycle clubs started similar programs. The ripple effect of one brave little boy asking to be loved spread far beyond Iowa. At the closing ceremony, Mayor Patricia Williams presented Tommy with a key to the city, for showing us all that courage comes in many forms and that the strongest families are those bound by choice and love. That night, as Bear tucked Tommy into bed, the boy asked, "Dad, do you think Mom can see us from heaven?" "I'm sure she can, buddy. I think she's happy. She always said angels would take care of me. She was right. They just ride motorcycles." Bear kissed his son's forehead. "Get some sleep, little warrior. Tomorrow, Uncle Tank's teaching you fractions." "Dad?" Tommy's voice was sleepy but content. "Thanks for choosing me." "No, son. Thank you for choosing us. You saved us all." As Bear closed the door, he could hear motorcycles in the distance, his brothers heading home after a perfect day. Each rumble was a promise. Tommy Morrison would never be alone again. The boy who'd crossed a street barefoot, desperate for family, had found more than he'd ever dreamed. And in return, he'd given 20 hardened bikers something they didn't know they needed. The chance to be heroes in a child's eyes and fathers in their hearts. Cedar Rapids would never forget the year a motorcycle club proved that family isn't about blood or conventional appearances. It's about showing up, standing firm, and choosing love. Every time engines roared through their streets, they remembered. Sometimes angels wear leather, ride Harleys, and answer the prayers of little boys who refuse to give up on love.